Hi, I'm Jean Schumacher, and I'm founder of Simply Plant Based, where I have quite a few programs to help you to change your health destiny. And I have the pleasure and privilege tonight of connecting with Chef Ramses Bravo, who is the executive chef of True North Health Center since 2007. He's the author of the cookbook Bravo Express, and by the way, I have a copy of that. And he also has an ebook called the Love Kitchen ebook. And he also has a new program that has just come out online to help people to cook and get their kitchen skills up. And I have already taken that and I'm working through it, and it's an amazing program. So I can't say enough about it. So thank you so much, Chef Bravo, for being here tonight.
Hi, Gene. Thank you for having me. Yes, appreciate it.
Well, I can't say enough about your program, the cooking one, and it's amazing. And I think you mentioned that you've got another one coming out too, on top of that.
All right. So I created this, I had this vision of 2 years ago of putting an online plant-based cooking program together. And all the pieces finally came together, and it came out in December, late December. And it's doing so well that we decided to film a second one. So the first one's called Simple Foundations to Plant-Based Cooking. And then we're going to do like advanced techniques to plant-based cooking. And as you mentioned, thank you for engaging with it. And, I've gotten nothing but great reviews from it. And the best part of it was, for me, the satisfaction that it's being well received, not just in the US, but I've had people from Spain, Mexico, Argentina, Australia, Germany, and even South Africa. So yeah, people have messaged me through the website bravopb.com, and they've told me, how nice of a program it is. So I'm very
It's
happy with it.
amazing.
Yeah.
¿Se va a hacer en español?
Sí,
Sí.
sí, sí.
Ah, qué bien. Muy bien. Excelente. So, did you always love cooking, or did this like come later in life?
No, I always love cooking, and I always love eating. So
Yeah.
I grew up in my grandmother's kitchen, and that's where my love for food and eating and cooking came from. However, when I first started with this, I trained as a regular chef. So the plant-based thing was never never in the plans. It just sort of came along, years and years down the line. So
Well,
I'm
tell me.
classically trained.
Yeah.
uh, if it moved, there was a way to cook it, slice it, and serve it.
Got to tell
Way,
the story about how you got to True North, because I think
yeah.
that's hilarious.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Well calculated by my boss too. Yes. So yeah, by the way the universe worked, I was working at a hotel, fancy hotel, and then I decided to move on, and then I was going to start my own project, my own catering company, and I was taking this class that's a something you have to do as a food professional. It's a food safety and handling certification. So I was doing that to get my certificate, and during the 10-minute break, I got a phone call from a lady who I've never met, and she is a friend of my mom's and also a client of True North, place where I work. So she'd been kind of following my career as I went along, and then she knew that I suddenly was quote unquote unemployed. And she told me about this guy who was looking for a chef who had this 20-plus-year-old business going, and they were going to move into a new location in downtown area, and would I be interested, kind of thing. And so that's how I got in touch with him. We talked, and then I learned that it was she actually told me that it was a vegan or plant-based gig. And I thought, well, that's not sexy at all. It's not, you know, not really desirable necessarily.
Right?
But because I had the, idea of starting my own catering company. I thought, well, maybe I should learn some more plant-based slash vegan techniques and, dishes, because, being in California, that's the kind of thing that people would ask for. And my previous experience with vegans and, plant-based people would be, if they came into the restaurant, would be to give them some rice, some steamed vegetables, and hope that they would not come back because they were not, the kind of customers we wanted. And I thought, well, maybe I should expand on that just a little bit. So I met with him, and then he started explaining to me that, he was moving the business from a place up in the boonies to a more of a downtown location. It was going to be much bigger. He essentially took over an apartment complex and he renovated it. And he said, one of the apartments we're going to gut out the whole thing and we're going to renovate it. And the one unit will be just a kitchen. And then another unit will be just a dining room. And, somewhere along there, he's like, oh, by the way, we don't do any sugar either. And I thought, well, I'm not big on sweets anyways. I've never been a candy kind of, as a kid, I loved candy so that I could unwrap it. That was my big thing. My mom always said, all you did was just unwrap it and rewrap it and unwrap it. And that was your thing. You hardly ever ate any of it. Okay. And I thought, well, no big deal. There's always dried fruit and fruit juices and all that. No problem. And then I met him again. He said,
so was this Alan or?
Alan, yeah.
Okay.
Alan Goldhammer.
Okay.
And then he said, well, why don't you come? He does a weekly talk on Mondays. So why don't you come out, check out the old facility, or at that time, the facility, which was going to become the old facility, on Monday, because that's when I do my talk. And then you can sort of listen and see what kind of thing that I'm doing. And so I went, and he is very eloquent, very smart, very buttoned up. So, that's sort of attractive for me to surround myself with, good, smart individuals. I don't ever like to be the smartest guy in the room. I always like to learn different things from different people, even if it has nothing to do with cooking. And so this guy is like so, engaging.
True.
So I thought, this guy sounds like he knows what he's doing. I certainly don't want to work for a guy who has no clue what's going on. And so we talk after his, his lecture and all that. And then he tells me, oh, by the way, we don't do any oil either. I'm like, oh, okay.
How am I supposed to cook?
Yeah. And then I thought, well, he's smart, but he's talking about cooking without oil. That makes no sense. But the big thing he had going for him was that I've always been a sucker for new projects. So opening up a new kitchen has always been a big draw for me. So he said, well, why don't you meet me at the facility, so you can actually see what it's going to look like and all that. So I meet him there. And then, he's telling me all these things that are going to happen. I see painters, scraping, wood chips or paint chips off of the outside. I see windows getting, removed, carpets getting ripped out and all these things. And then we walked into the one apartment, which still has walls and all this funky carpet there. And he's like, well, this is going to be the kitchen. And, we're going to open up that wall and that's going to be the pass to the dining room. And, that'll be the dining room. All the floors are going to be new and there's all this equipment. He showed me the kitchen plans, where the oven was going to go and the steamer and all these other things. And then, he finally said, oh, by the way, we don't do any salt either.
Did your brain just want to go oh my God, how am I supposed to do anything? I can't flavor the food.
It was a little surreal because of, as a chef, as a, classically trained chef, one of the biggest things that's one of the very first things that gets ingrained in your brain, sometimes by physical force, is to make sure your food is always properly seasoned. You don't dare cook something and not put the right amount of salt in your food for the fear that the chef might come through the kitchen, through your station and taste something, a sauce or a saute something, a roasted something, anything. And if there's not enough food in your, in what you cooked, you're in big trouble kind of thing. And then suddenly, my boss is, my, prospective boss is taking that right out of, out of play. And then it's like, well, like you said, you're like, how am I supposed to cook that, like, I had to like think about it to like process. It was like that. It's almost like it was like that's
Impossible.
impossible. That's not gonna work. That's not gonna make sense. How am I gonna like say to somebody like, "Hey, here, taste this that I made," knowing that it didn't have any flavor? So yeah, it was like this sort of weird, Looney Tunes sort of moment. But my daughter at the time was 2 years old. I was taking on this whole new project of starting my own business, which was scary in itself. I had to make sure that she was going to be fed. So I thought, well, a steady paycheck, which was actually going to be a raise from my previous job. I thought, well, not such a bad thing. I still get to learn some vegan stuff, which I'm still going to use for when I actually do start my own catering thing. So I was like this close to not taking a job, but I did. And when I did, I thought to myself, well, I'm going to do this for 6 months and then I'm going to get out of here before I go bad, kind of a thing. And that was like almost 12 and a half years ago.
Can you believe it?
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah,
Wow.
but it's been a really good ride, really good journey. First of all, I lost a bunch of weight myself. My energy went way up. And then I've been able to do all these great projects. I've written two books, as you mentioned, Bravo Cookbook and then Bravo Express. And then I put together this online cooking course, about to make the second one. I do some teaching at True North as well, hands-on classes, which if for a chef or a regular chef, doing like classes and like actually sitting there and, babysit people at a cutting board, that's not something you really want to do. You want people that know how to hold a knife, and then you go, go, chop this, chop that, throw it in, heat the pan, go, go, go. But it's been actually pretty fun. I get a lot of people who don't know how to cook at all, or some people that know how to cook but don't have any idea about plant-based cooking. And then, I slowly just give them the knowledge and teach them all the tricks of the trade. And it just becomes very rewarding. So yeah, I've gotten to do a lot of cool things, even though like I said, my plan was to be there 6 months and then move on.
Well, did they have recipes
No.
already there when
Mm.
you first came on board?
Uh, he offered me a cookbook that they sort of used, which is the health promoting cookbook that he wrote prior to me getting there. But his thing was to make food so people would stay alive, kind of thing.
Right.
My thing has always been make food that tastes good, because my thing is always, if it doesn't taste good, I don't care if it's a steak or a kale salad. If it doesn't taste good, people are not going to eat it.
Right.
They might eat it once and be like, oh, okay, it's healthy, it's supposed to be good for me, blah, blah, blah. But then the second time they're like, no, give me something I'm actually going to enjoy.
Right.
So I had full freedom to do any new recipes, new dishes, and all that, and which I did. So I developed an entire kitchen full of soups, salads, dressings, entrees, side dishes, vegetable dishes, starch dishes, bean dishes. So, everything was, from scratch, from zero. We started with nothing, recipe wise, I mean.
So as you started developing these recipes, like where did your inspiration come from?
Regular food, actually, a lot of regular food. So, whereas most plant-based and vegan chefs have always been all about veggies and grains and all that, I actually draw a lot of my inspiration from regular food. For example, I think of crab cakes and then I go, okay, crab cakes are great because they're yummy and they're sort of crispy on the outside and there's a really nice sauce to go with them. And who doesn't love this sort of patties that are sort of crispy on the outside and then soft in the center? And so that's the inspiration. Okay, what can we make that's crab cake like that is actually plant based? And then one of the things that I do is this butter bean sort of cakes. So the beans act as the lump crab meat kind of thing, and then we do a tomato saffron sauce to go with that,
Ooh.
with like lemon and chili, kale at the bottom, sort of thing. So that's kind of how my mind works. The cover for my first book, the cover photo is the Hawaiian salad that I've put together. The inspiration for that salad was actually Chinese chicken salad. It's where you have, the greens and the chicken and the little fried noodle things. And so, go, okay, how do we make Chinese chicken salad plant-based? And then you go, okay, turn it, out. There we go, kind of thing.
Plantizing it.
Yeah. So it's not like, I'm actually not very original. I just simply go, okay, what is something that actually works, tastes good? How do we then take that wheel and redirect it a little bit instead of trying to reinvent it? Because I'm not into that. It's too much work to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
I just redirect it. That's all I do.
Right. And sauces are everything.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
Sauces are very important. So a good sauce can make a mediocre dish excellent. A bad sauce can make an excellent dish very subpar. So sauces are very, very important.
Absolutely. Well, what on this journey are you most proud of?
I'd have to say the surrender to it.
Oh, just like living plant-based.
Yeah. So, I make it sound all really nice and, pretty and rosy and, rainbow colored kind of thing. But it wasn't. I took the job. I decided, okay, I'm going to be here 6 months. I'm going to move on. 6 months came, and then I started working on the first book. And I said, well, I don't want to leave this. I don't want to put effort into this book if I'm not going to finish it. So I kept going. I lost weight. I was feeling better. So everything was great, quote unquote. But in my head, I was saying, that voice inside my head was saying, why are you here? You're wasting your talent. This is not what you went to school for, that you went through so much physical and emotional pain to learn your craft, because being a chef is really hard work. And then my mind's going, well, why are you here? This is not the dream. This was not the plan. This was not, you're doing this totally wrong. And at the same time, I'm looking at people that I'm feeding and they're getting so much healthier, so much better. I'm getting healthier. I have more energy for my daughter. So there was this constant, internal turmoil, like I'm seeing something that's good, but I'm thinking that it's actually very bad. And that went on for some time, probably like six years or so. And I got to a point where, I was just angry and dissatisfied and sort of frustrated with myself. And then finally I said, okay, this has to stop. I was like arguing with the guy, speaking inside my brain. And I said, this has to stop. Either, I hope you can edit this later. Shut the hell up, or just get another job, because I can't, I'm wasting so much time and energy fighting, within my own self. And so once I made that decision to just be happy and surrender to what I was doing and just embrace it. And I go, okay, it's okay if my quote unquote, my chef skills diminish a little bit, because, I'm only working with plants and vegetables and fruits and grains. Fine. I'd rather lose a little bit of my chef skills and yet have like peace of mind than to just continue this sort of internal battle.
So do you
So,
think like your chef skills have diminished?
no, actually, that's like 3/4 of the story. So once I made that switch, I was feeling so much better, so much at peace, so much more relaxed. People actually would tell me, because we have a lot of repeat customers that come to True North, and they would say like, "You look different. There's something different about you. You look." They never said better. It was something like, "You seem different." And I didn't want to, explain them the whole thing. So I said, "Oh, thank you. I'm just, I'm glad to be here. Happy you're back. Welcome back to True North and all that." In the back of my mind, I was thinking, well, I'm not as some of my skills have diminished. That's okay. And then later on, I started to realize that I could have conversations with steak and potato lovers kind of thing, just as good as I could have a conversation with a kale chips kind of person. So then I was like, oh, I'm actually not half a chef because I'm going plant-based. I'm actually twice a chef because now I can engage with whoever about whatever sort of diet they eat, and yet I can tell them how to make it healthier, even if it's a steak and potato guy.
Right.
Okay. Where most plant-based and vegan chefs, if they try to engage with a steak and potato person, they're like, no, you have to stop eating steak. That's so bad for you. And then the steak and potato guy goes, I don't hear you.
La 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 la
La,
la
la, la,
la la.
la, 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 la. Exactly. So where I could be like, hey, what's your favorite kind of steak? Oh, I like that too. When I ate steak, this was my favorite kind of steak, and I always like to pair it with this potato. If you like, a ribeye kind of thing, why don't you try out this potato gratin recipe that I have? It uses no butter, no dairy, no nothing, but you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And so, once I was able to sort of put that little seed in their mind, they're like, sure, I can have my steak, and, the potatoes are healthy, so that's much better. So, hey, sure, I don't get people to quit eating steaks, right away.
Planting seeds.
Planting seeds, and it's, slowly sort of bringing them along. And my sort of lab experiment for this was my own family, where I was like slowly but surely chipping away at all the at all the bad stuff. And they're not, fully converted by any means. But if you saw the way they ate before I started this job to where they are now, oh man, it's like a world of difference. So yeah, they were my subject, my test subject.
Are you like now plant-based completely or?
No, and I will say that truthfully, I am not fully plant-based. As I mentioned before, I still draw a lot of my inspiration from regular food.
Mhm.
I still think of myself as a regular chef. I just happen to be, cooking plant-based at the moment. And I say that to sort of put my brain at ease at the moment.
Right, right.
And so I eat very little meats, very little dairy, hardly any dairy at all. But from time to time, like I mentioned, I just came back from Mexico. Any sort of new restaurants that I haven't been to, food magazines that I look at, I hear of a new place opening up, a new ramen place, down the street, or a friend of mine tells me about this new donut shop that was open, and there's like a line, down the block. That always sparked my interest, and so I'll always like let me check it out. If there's a line out the door, they're doing something that works, something that's attracting people. I want to know what it is. And so I still engage in some regular food every now and then, just to keep that curiosity and that inspiration sort of going.
Do you ever notice, like, when you do deviate, do you notice it in your system?
Oh, good Lord, yes. If I ever eat something that I shouldn't eat, I can feel it right away. It settles
Oh,
like a, sort of rock in the stomach, and it slows everything down, and then
right?
a couple of days later, you're like, oh my God, just go, move, like get out kind of thing.
Right.
So Now, I always enjoy it. Like, oh man, this is really good. This is tasty. Sort of what can I make that's like this that people are really gonna enjoy. But yeah, 2 days later, I'm like, oh my God, this just has to go. You feel it in your stomach, and everything just stops, and it's
No,
not good.
I had one. I have to share a story with you, and this has kind of become my classic, story because I
Uh-huh.
was tutoring, and and usually I bring my food with me, and I was tutoring, and so I was at this house, and I was there for like several hours, and I was starving by the time I came out, which is the worst thing to do. Like, don't
Yep.
let yourself get hungry. So, and I was driving home, and I went by this bagel place, and I'm like, oh, and I pulled into the bagel place with the intention of just getting a toasted whole wheat bagel. That was it. That was my intention, as God is
Mhm.
my witness. But the guy said to me, we have a new cream cheese. And I was a cream cheeseaholic. And he says, we have a new cream cheese and it's got walnuts and cinnamon and raisins. And, would you like to try some? I'm like, yeah. I didn't even stop. The filter was gone.
Yeah.
And he slathered it on there and I ate that. Oh my God. I didn't even get 10 minutes down the road. I had to pull off the road. I felt like somebody had stuck a samurai sword through my stomach,
I
and I
believe.
just went like, and I had to sit there. I sat there for like about 10, 15 minutes on the side of the road, just trying to hope that I could make it home, And so I finally got home, and I literally I'm like crawling up the stairs, and I just curled up on the bed in a fetal position. And my husband comes home, and I'm mooing on the bed, "Ooh." He's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I ate cream cheese. I wish I could have thrown it up, but it took like 6 hours for the pain to pass. And have I had cream cheese since then? No.
Nope.
No. I remember the pain.
Yeah.
That was bad. Oh my
It's been a
God.
long time since I've had cream cheese.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Mm.
And it was so bad. I mean, like literally, and I'm sure that was a really good cream cheese, and and all the
Was
ingredients
it
were there.
tasty when you ate it?
I ate it like I'd just been released from prison.
Yeah. Yeah.
Spoken like a true food addict,
Yeah. Well,
which I'll be the first to go, hi, I'm Gene Schumacher, I'm a food addict,
right. Yeah.
and that's my whole family. I mean, we're
Well,
food addicts. I mean,
uh,
it's a
is,
sport,
is there is there such a thing as a non-food addict as a human being? I mean,
I think so, because like my husband is not. I mean, he can take food or leave it, and he's not like he can leave. He can take a chocolate bar and take a little bite off of it, and put it in his desk drawer, and come back to it 2 months later. Like, are
but
you
he eats
kidding
food
me?
every day, right?
He does. He does.
That's an addict. If you consume something every single day, you're an addict.
Yes, but you're playing word games with me now. But
No, but see,
anyway,
here's what I'm getting at.
yeah.
As I've gone through this journey, I've learned things about what actually helps people.
Yeah.
So when people go, I'm a food addict, and this and that, we're like, of course you're a food addict. I'm a food addict too. I consume food every day. Anything you consume every single day that makes you an addict. And it's not that I'm playing, word games with you. It's just, for somebody who's watching this, when you break it down into very simple things, you suddenly take the shame out of it. So you go, okay, of course I'm a food addict. I eat food every day. Okay. That sort of settles it in a way that you're like, all right, I'm not going to fight this food addiction that I think it's so wrong. I just have to continue to be an addict and consume sort of the right substances most of the time. And you also mentioned, like, don't let yourself get hungry. So one of the things that I understood down the line was, okay, if you let yourself get hungry, you reduce your brain ability so that when you get hungry, it's you're searching for that glucose and you're like, the first thing I see, that's what I'm going to go to. That's the first thing I'm going to grab. But if you are constantly, sort of eating the right stuff and, making sure you have bananas or potatoes or, fruit, you have full brain function so that when you go by the bagel shop, you're like, sure, I could have a bagel, but I'm just going to keep going home. If you let yourself get hungry, you deplete your brain and your brain goes for the very first thing that sees as food. But if you're constantly keeping yourself, satiated, you have full brain function available to you. So, one of the things I've learned throughout the year. So
It's true. Absolutely true. So give us an idea of what Chef Bravo eats during the day.
every day when I wake up, I crave muffins or pastries. That's
Okay.
every single day. And what that means is that because I just went to sleep, I've gone now through like 8 to 10 hours without food. The brain is like, oh, give me something. And what it is your brain realizes that it's been hours since you've fed it. And so it wants to be fed. And it's thinking, give me the most highest concentrated calorie thing you could possibly give me, because I don't know if you're going to starve me again for another 10 hours. And
Right.
so that's what a muffin craving is. It's your brain going, I don't know if you're going to continue to starve me, so give me the most calories possible. So what I do is I shower, get ready, get to work, and oatmeal and fruit is like my go-to, 9 out of 10 times. The moment you eat some, natural sugar, your brain goes, oh, okay, everything's fine. I didn't really want a muffin. I just needed some food. And so that takes care of that muffin craving most of the time. Then it's a steamed vegetables throughout the day. At 1 o'clock, I know I have to eat something substantial: beans, rice, potatoes, because we always take our break at 2 o'clock. And as I mentioned before, if I don't eat anything at 1, at 2 o'clock, I'm really hungry. And we have grocery stores across the street from True North. And if one of the employees suggests, hey, let's go out and get some sandwiches or pizza or something, your brain goes, oh, that's a really good idea. So I've learned that at 1 o'clock, I have to eat something substantial so that at 2 o'clock, I'm okay whether I eat a little bit more or whether I don't. So it's a beans, rice. We do a lot of potatoes at True North for, both guests and the staff. We'll do them whole, baked, steam, roasted, wedges, all sorts of different ways to do potatoes. Most of the time we'll have salsa, a spicy green salsa, or spicy red salsa. As long as it's spicy, red or green works. And then once dinner comes around, lentils are like my favorite thing to eat. They're just so substantial. They are very filling, very satisfying. So lentils are my one, like probably the one thing I could eat almost every day,
Mm-hmm.
as long as I have different spices to go with them. And then it's more fruit throughout the evening. Somewhere in there, somebody will make green juices or a smoothie. Sometimes I do it, sometimes the sous chef, sometimes one of the other kitchen workers. So somewhere in there, a juice or two throughout the day. That's a quote unquote typical day when I'm at work.
Okay. Well, what's your favorite meal?
Something I haven't had in a few days. One of the very important things, like I just mentioned, we have potatoes very often at True North. But if yesterday we had steamed potatoes, I don't want a steamed potato. I want a roasted wedges. And then on the next day, well, we already had steamed potatoes, we had wedges. Let's do baked potatoes. And then the next day, let's do a slice crispy fries kind of thing. So potatoes and more potatoes, but then you have to change it up. You have to make it interesting. You have to make it different so that you don't get bored.
Right?
So one of my favorite things to cook at True North is my pumpkin curry soup,
Ooh.
but I could only have that maybe twice in a row. After that, I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to smell it. I want something different.
Okay.
So whatever I haven't had in a while, that's my favorite meal.
Favorite meal. Okay. That's a good one. All right. So, how do you deal with, eating out? I mean, so are you okay with just, eating oil out if you go out, or, animal products?
Eating out is difficult. I'll be the first one to say, because there is a big lack of education or knowledge, not education. There's the big lack of knowledge by food establishments who have who still go by the good old way of doing things, which is a little bit of oil in a pan and then throw the stuff in, whether it's meat, rice, beans, whatever it is. This has been the way that things have been cooked for generation after generation after generation. So most everybody believe, well, that's the way you cook something. You got to start with a little bit of oil or butter or lard, bacon fat, duck fat, something. I know people who cook with duck fat every meal. And so because there isn't a lot of knowledge out there for, hey, there's a different way to do this without all of that. Yeah. There's not a lot of choices out there for people. So yes, the whole plant-based thing movement is growing and getting more, steam behind it. But there's, we could do more. Right. And so a couple different things. If I know I'm going to go out, I'll reach in my refrigerator and eat something that I know it's clean and healthy, so that when I get to the restaurant, I'm not so hungry. Right. So I'm going to eat either less, or again, I have full brain function available to me, so that I can look at a menu and sort of pick things to go, okay, I could have this, this, and this, and it'll be just fine. And then the other part of it is like, okay, I'm not going to go out as often, but if I do, I'm going to just accept and be okay with the fact that there's going to be some oil, there's going to be some salt, and that's fine. Again, instead of doing this whole shame thing where, like, oh my God, I went out and had, pizza, or I went and had a burrito, and oh my God, that was so bad. And, it's the next day, and you got to think about that day, not yesterday, so right. I always tell people, if you're going to have a cheap meal, if you're going to have a cheap day, fine, go out, enjoy it. Great. Once the clock hits, past midnight, it's a new day, new opportunity to make sure you have salad, green juice, make sure you eat your kale, your Swiss chard, potatoes, all that stuff. And forget about tomorrow, because that's already eaten, you're past that already.
Right. Well, for me, I virtually can't eat out, because I am, and I call this peeling back layers of an onion, because like I started to learn a lot about myself on this journey. And one of the things I have found is I'm ridiculously salt sensitive. I cannot have any salt in any way, shape, or form at all. So it becomes virtually impossible for me to eat out. And if I do, like I'm going to an event or something like that, I'll call ahead and say, yes, here's my problem. I actually we went to a restaurant for school. They took us into the city, and we had to go eat and it was a restaurant called Blue Smoke. And it is
cool name.
Yeah. But the antithesis of what we eat. Okay. And so it's like all Southern, home, deep fried.
Oh, okay.
That kind of cooking, smoked barbecue, stuff like that. So I called the restaurant up and I said, I'm coming in, with our group and our school, and I eat whole food plant-based, SOS. And after she stopped laughing, I said, is there anything you can do for me? And she's like, our chef always likes a challenge, so I'll turn it over to him. And I said, okay. And everybody, while at the dinner table, I was sitting there, and they brought, my food out separate, because they were eating like home style, family style, so they were passing the bowls around and stuff like that. And they brought my plate, and I'm like, mine. And everybody's looking at mine going, hey, that's looking pretty good. How come I didn't get that? Because I called ahead.
Yeah.
But and they did an amazing job. I mean, talk about a place that was the antithesis of everything and how we eat. I mean, talk about your ultimate, fat, sugar, salt, dairy, meat to the max.
Right.
And,
good old Southern cooking.
Yeah. Oh, and the chefs did an amazing job. They really outdid themselves. And I have to say kudos to whoever the chef was. And I actually said, please send your compliments to your chef, because he just did an amazing job and created some sauces. I don't know what he did, but oh my God. And it made everything. The whole meal was just absolutely superb. Anyway,
Excellent.
I
So
digress.
that's a question I often get asked, is like, how do you, deal with that? And I always tell people, call ahead,
Yeah.
preferably a day before, and always between 2 and 4, because that's the downtime for the kitchen. Do not show up at 7:30, when it's time for dinner, and then be like, well, I'm SOS, plant-based, and all this stuff, because at that time the chef doesn't have time to create. He just, there's a rhythm to the kitchen, and that's a big, obstacle for what he's trying to do, for
Yeah.
dinner service. But most chefs are like, oh, a challenge. Okay, tomorrow this person's coming, and it's 24 hours later. What can I make? And they'll be happy to accommodate you if you call ahead.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, but there's times when I can't call ahead, and I usually, in my purse, I bring my salad dressing
That's right.
and, maybe something else if I can't have, whatever we're going. I
Mm-hmm.
try and make it so that it's not a big deal,
Yeah.
because I hate like being the center of attention and going, oh God, here we
Yeah.
go again.
Yeah. You're like, oh, here she goes again. We're trying to get our meal, and she's going to make it difficult. And
I know.
yeah.
So I hate doing that. So a lot of times I'll eat ahead. So like you said, that I'm not starving when I go in there, and I'll just eat
Mm-hmm.
my salad. And people are like, "Is that what you eat? Like that's it?" And I'm like, "No, this is all I can get here." So
Yeah. No, there's a good Facebook post that I saw recently, something like, what people think I eat, and there's a lettuce leaf on there, and then what I actually eat, and then there's all this huge arrangement of fruits, vegetables, grains,
yeah,
beans, all sorts of, this big old thing. But
yeah.
people have this misconception of like, oh, you're vegan, you eat lettuce.
Well, that's one of the things. I did a bunch of work with Kim Campbell, and she takes some absolutely amazing pictures of the food,
Mm-hmm.
for her cookbooks. And so I said, Kim, give me some of your pictures. So she took her pictures and then my pictures, and we put them together. And I put them into it's about a 2.5, 3 minute video
Mm-hmm.
with a picture a second.
Okay.
And that's it. Because I got tired of people going, so what do you eat? Grass clippings, tree bark? What are we talking here? And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I save that for special occasions. Just saying,
Yep.
So I got tired of people just thinking that's it. That's all I ate was salads.
Yeah.
And it's
No.
like, no. And when they start to look at this, and I show them the video, and they're like, oh my gosh.
That looks really good.
Definitely. Oh, yeah. How about that? Can I have, what's the recipe for, and it's going by like, a picture a second.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow, oh my God, and they really start to resonate, because the color, I mean, our eyes are designed visually. I mean, if you look at the whole electromagnetic spectrum, we have such a narrow range of what our eyes can see. And it's focused in on the colors, because you don't have to sneak up on a strawberry, and pounce and attack it. It's right here. We just need to find it. And that's the color,
And
so
then
really,
you go, okay, it's green. No, not ripe yet. It's red. It's ready to go.
right. Yeah. Exactly. Right.
So for those folks out there who go, well, we've developed as, from meat eaters, there's enough evidence to suggest that no, we are not, we're not biologically, made to eat meat. We're actually made to eat plants and grains and, fruits and vegetables. And one of the biggest things for me is our ability to see in color. Whereas predators, they see motion. So they see, black and white kind of thing. A brown cow is going to be just as big of a meal as a white cow. But again, for us, we've developed that color, ability to see in color, so that we can go, okay, strawberries. This one's green. No, this one's red. Yes. Figs, apples, that whole thing. So.
Did you hear about Utsi?
No, I have not.
Okay. So they found this guy. He was found on the Italian side of the Swiss Alps.
Uh-huh.
And as they're digging him out, he was buried in snow. So they called 911, hey, somebody died. You might come get him. And as they're starting to dig him out, they're like, this guy just didn't die. Well, he was like 5,000 years old. Okay. So they took him into the lab and they put him back on ice right away because he was starting to decompose very
Right.
quickly. So this was the first time he was either killed or had died and fell and bottom line, he was instantly buried in snow. And this is the first time, like 5,000 years later, that he was exposed, like that global warming that's not taking place, that,
Yeah.
so it's starting to melt. So he was exposed, and he actually still had in his stomach his last meal.
Oh, cool.
And so they did an analysis of it, and he had eaten some meat. And so the paleo people went absolutely bonkers. We told you, And
Yeah.
but then they went on to do a hair analysis of him because everything was intact. I mean, his clothing, his hair, everything was perfectly preserved. His backpack that he had with him, everything was perfectly preserved. And so they did a hair analysis of him and found out that he was predominantly vegan, plant-based.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's really difficult to go out and find animals and to be able to kill them and then skin them. It takes a lot of effort.
A lot of work, a lot of energy. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the meat doesn't stay very long. It's like they didn't have refrigeration back then. They didn't have it like nicely plasticized and wrapped up in the meat case. So, it stayed for a very short period of time. So you had to be able to go out and find the animals, know where they were, and figure out, hey,
run them down.
Yeah, and to be able to run them down. Are you kidding? We're not like you really. We're not people.
No.
To chase after some of these like gazelles and stuff like that.
Correct.
Can outrun us. Like,
One of the things I've heard about that whole thing is that it's very easy to go, okay, there's this ancient people. Oh, look at all these arrowheads. Look at this bow. Obviously they hunted, they ate meat all the time. But yeah, arrowheads don't decompose the same as seeds and nuts and fruits and vegetables. So it's very hard to, find a 5,000-year-old person and find all these remains of fruits and vegetables. What you find is the tools. Well, obviously this is a knife. They used it to skin, whatever animal they find. But you suddenly go, wait, well, that's what they did every single day. They were actually successful at hunting down this huge, extremely fast animal, and they did this on a daily basis. No, that's not what happens. But because the arrowheads get preserved, that's what everybody gravitates to. So that's the quick, solid, visual evidence that you find. So you have to like you said, like an onion. You have to peel down the layers and understand that. No, we don't have teeth like dogs and wolves. We have these molars that are meant for grinding, like hippos and giraffes and oxes. So
and our digestive system is very, very long.
It's very different from a predator.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because a predator wants to get it in and out.
And out.
Like, look at a true predator, like a cat. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you feed that cat, how long is it before that cat's in the litter box?
Very soon.
The
digestive tract is much, much shorter.
Right.
So.
And ours is much longer so that we can get that fiber, we can get all the nutrients, so we can slowly break it down. So no. So for someone who's new to this way of eating, what would be some challenges to a person just starting out, say like a 10-day challenge? What are some suggestions on how to deal with this in a positive way?
The quote-unquote challenge I always give to people, I say, look, eat whatever you want to eat, except for dairy. Cut out dairy from your diet completely and just be very mindful of it. You can eat whatever else you want, but do without dairy for 1 month. If you can get through that, you can get through anything else, okay? Because dairy is like this one big thing that people always gravitate to. Like one of the most common things is like, oh, I can't give up cheese. I just can't do that.
Right.
So I said to them, if you can do without dairy for a month, you can do anything. Okay.
Right.
And here's the big thing. If you do without dairy for a month, two things are going to happen. As far as the weight loss, you're cutting out a huge concentrated calorie thing. Okay. Because cheese and cream and all that is just very concentrated calorie wise. Forget the whole animal product thing. It's a big thing, huge chunk of calories that you're removing.
And salt.
And salt, yeah.
Yeah.
But actually, even more important than that is the fat. Here's my big thing for people. I said, look, if you can do this, here's what's going to happen. You're going to lose a whole bunch of calories and you're going to lose weight. Great. But here's the biggest, even better than that. What's happening is the more fat you consume, the more fat is in your mouth, the more barrier from the food to your taste buds. Okay, it's like, here's your tongue, and then the oil goes on top, and then the food can't get through. So you need to add a whole bunch of salt so that you can actually taste the food.
I never thought of it that way.
Remove the oil, and suddenly the flavor goes right to the taste buds. Okay? Suddenly, you're eating a lot less oil, okay? Because there's a lot of oil and cheese and cream and sour cream and milk and all that, okay? A lot less fat, preventing the flavor from getting to your taste buds. Because of that, you're going to need a lot less salt so that you'll be able to actually taste your food without having to add a whole bunch of salt. So now it's less calories, less oil, you're tasting more of your food, you need less salt, and it's this whole thing where just gets you, it's a lot of steam you pick up. By the time that month is up, if you go back to the dairy, my goodness, you feel a big difference. Suddenly you eat something like, oh God, this is so oily. I can't taste the food.
Yeah.
And then you go, wow, okay, I got through a month. I'm going to keep going because now this actually doesn't taste good. I can't taste the food. So that's, if you want to go challenge, go without dairy for a month. You'll see a huge, huge difference.
I never thought of it that way. That is huge. That's a good. That's an amazing explanation.
Yep.
Wow.
And then if you understand that, then you go, okay, I want to be very healthy. I'm going to eat lots of salad. Well, you normally have dressing with a salad, and most anywhere USA, kitchen, hotel, grocery store, most dressings are like 3/4 oil. So then you go, oh my God, I'm trying to eat the salad, I'm trying to eat these veggies, and then I'm, again, there's a tongue, there's a whole that oil in the dressing, and I can't taste the flavor. So then if you understand that, whole dairy process, you go, okay, well, the same thing applies to a salad dressing. Where like, okay, I have to figure out a way to do oil-free dressings so that I can actually taste the food.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, well, when I do a stir fry, it's the same thing. I have my pan and I just started with a whole bunch of olive oil or peanut oil or whatever it is. Same thing. There's a tongue, there's the oil, and I can't get flavor out of the food. Take that out. You're like, oh, I can taste the food now. I need less salt. Everything is just falling into place.
Well, what are some of your favorite tips and tricks that you've perfected?
Oh gosh, there's
so many.
No, and it's not that it's so many. It's just that, it's a whole, yes, there's not so many, but there's many of them to go through the whole list. Number one, I would say the foundation for my kitchen at True North is we always use vegetable broth for everything. And we make our own. We save all the trimmings and peelings and, the cores and the stems and all the stuff from all the vegetables that we use, with a couple exceptions. And we make vegetable broth out of that. And from that vegetable broth, there's the base for all the soups. When we cook rice, it's cooked vegetable broth. When we cook beans, polenta, lentils, I mentioned soups, garbanzos, stir fries, dressings. We use vegetable broth as the base for our, oil-free dressings. And so that's a big, big, big difference. Where people go, okay, if I'm going to go SOS, how am I going to get flavor out of the food? Because again, we're talking about all these things. If it doesn't taste good, people are not going to eat it. Okay, so that has to be the number one goal. Make it taste good. If it tastes good, people who want to be vegan, plant-based will eat it, and people who are not plant-based or vegan will eat it because it tastes good. Okay.
Right.
And so that's, like the biggest thing for us is always have vegetable broth at hand so that you can add flavor, compare, if you're going to make rice, it's 2 cups of water to 1 cup of rice. But if instead of 2 cups of water, it's 2 cups of broth, suddenly there's a whole bunch more flavor to that rice.
Yeah.
And then you go, okay, I don't have to salt it. There's flavor, good to go. All right. Same broth was used to cook the bean dish. Okay, there's plenty of flavor. And to that, you also added other things to the beans, herbs and spices, chopped up onions and garlic and all that stuff. You're like, okay, this actually tastes, there's flavor here. I can taste it. That's good. It's not, it's not that flavorless leaf of lettuce that I'm going to starve on kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one of my favorites is, in terms of spices, is Bear.
I'm not familiar
it's
with
a
that.
Mediterranean spice, and it's a blend, and you can get it. Whole Foods has a blend of it, but that does contain salt. But Kim Campbell has a recipe in her book on Plant Pure Nation cookbook. And she has a recipe for Bear spices.
Oh, I'll have to look that up.
And she just makes the blend herself. She makes a bunch of it and then has it in the kitchen. I use it for everything. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like when I'm cooking my beans, I'll take the beans after I've cooked them in the Instant Pot, and I've got the liquid. I'll take some of the liquid and some of the beans, and I'll put that in a blender, and then I'll add some Bear. I'll add some cumin, some onion powder, garlic powder, and then blend that up. And so it gives it a creaminess to the beans.
Okay.
Then I add that back to it. So it adds a really nice flavor. So I put the spices in after I've cooked the beans, and then it adds it's a, I don't know how to quite describe it's got a kick. It's got a nice kick to it.
Right, I'll look that up.
And it's got a nice kick, but it's also got a very unique flavor to it that it just gives such an amazing flavor to the beans and, anything else I use. Like I make stews with it all the time, and like lentils and sweet potatoes, and I'll add it to that too.
Oh, good. I'll have to look it up and see what's in it.
Ooh, yummy.
Since you're mentioning spices, one of my, absolute go-tos for spices, whatever spice it is to always toast it. So I heard you said that, after you cook the beans, you add it to it. For me, that'd be the wrong way to do it. I'd make sure that at some point I have toasted that spice or that spice mix, because when you get a little jar or a tub like we use, because we go through so much of spice, whether it's an individual spice or a mix, out of that jar or that container, you're only going to get about 50% of flavor from that spice. When you toast it, the amount of flavor that comes out of it just goes way up. It goes from like 50 to like 80+% of flavor just by toasting it. So there's a trick for you when you make your beans, at some point, toast that Bear spice. And for me, it's always like, okay, I have a hot pan or pot, the garlic and the celery, carrots, mushrooms, whatever it may be, go in. And I always like to do a dry saute, meaning, no water, no broth, nothing, so that the onions and the garlic hit that hot metal and they start to caramelize, and the water content in the onions and garlic and the other vegetables start to evaporate. So water doesn't taste like anything. And so the water that's in the vegetables, you're going to get rid of, because that's doing you no favors. Okay. And at the same time, you're caramelizing those natural sugars in the onions and garlic. And once most of that moisture has evaporated, you have a hot, dry environment in that pot or pan. That is the perfect time to add your spice in, so that you toast it, okay, and you raise the amount of flavor that you're going to get out of that spice. And then the rest of your ingredients go in. The beans or whatnot go in.
Nice.
If you're going to cook it in the Instapot, then you take a pan, you separate pan, and you just toast the spice, for a minute, maybe 30 seconds, a minute, hot pan. Okay, now that goes in the Instapot with all the rest of the ingredients. Okay, you have now toasted that spice, and you're going to see a big improvement, a big difference in flavor if you do that.
Nice. Awesome.
Another trick for you.
See, this is why I like learning from you, because you're amazing. You have all these tricks up your sleeve.
No.
So, do you use soy yogurt?
No.
No?
Mm-mm.
Is that a no-no at True North? Or
That's a no-no at True North. That'd be a no-no for my boss. So
is that because of the fat content in it?
my boss would see that as a what he calls a gateway drug. He goes, oh, we're soy yogurt, fine. Soy yogurt. Oh, we're out of soy yogurt. Well, just for this one day, we're going to have regular yogurt. And then you're like, oh, well, I had regular yogurt today. Maybe just a little more, 2 days later. And so then the momentum you built up, you sort of start to lose because, of that one time you used the non-dairy yogurt.
Right.
So that's why we also don't do any sort of chocolate at all or any carob either, because he sees it as a gateway drug.
Okay. Well, I absolutely I'm learned to make soy yogurt in the Instant Pot, and boy, what a game changer for sauces. And
This has been good, yeah.
Oh my God, really, really good. I mean, it holds the flavor of whatever it is, so it just gives a nice base to make sauces with.
Okay.
I mean, and the sauces you can take to Jedi level. And I found there's a product called Sriracha sauce. It's a vegetable sriracha, and it's made by, I think it's called True Made Foods, I think is the name of the company.
Uh-huh.
And it's a vegetable sriracha that they make that is outstanding. And it's very, very, like, absolutely almost minimal. I think it's like 25 milligrams of salt, something like that, something very, very low. So for me, it's almost that I can use that, and it gives, because most of the srirachas and, hot spicy things have a very large amount of salt in them.
The salt in them,
so, yeah. So this is like so low in salt that I can actually use it. And I'll mix that with like some of the West Bray, mustard.
Mustard, the no salt mustard.
Yeah. And then add a little bit of not a lot, just, a couple tablespoons of the yogurt, and mix that together. And it makes almost like a Thousand Islands, almost like a Russian dressing.
Oh, cool.
It's really delicious. Super, super good.
See, I'm learning just as much from you as you're from me, because now I got to go look up bear spice. I got to ask you for that recipe for the soy yogurt, and I have to look up that sriracha too.
Oh my God, that's a game changer right there.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it has a medium spice to it, So when you add it to the yogurt dials down the spice, but it's still there a little bit. You can still have that little kick. So it's such a game changer, and it's like a blank palate, so it absorbs whatever flavors that you're putting into it. Even putting in like a little bit of smoke, like that flavoring.
I could see that with like a smoked paprika.
Yes, like a smoked paprika, and just add that to it. Some onion, some garlic, and add that to it. Oh, you just went to Jedi level.
Oh, I have to look that up. Yeah. Do you have a recipe for that?
I do, actually.
Okay.
So I will share, because I share it all.
Awesome.
So anyway, what are some other ideas or insights that people can help us to be successful in transitioning to this life? I mean, and hopefully continuing to live this way.
Don't set yourself up for perfection. If you are I'm either going to do this perfectly or I'm not going to do it at all, I can almost guarantee you're going to fail. Okay. Because there's a lot of good tasting food out there that is very tempting. Okay. So, right. So I just, take it, a meal at a time. Okay. Small success, stories, instead of saying, oh my God, I went, plant-based SOS free for, 6 months. Forget that. You're going to, you're going to fail. You're going to stumble along the way. I made this, great roasted potato dish with this sriracha sort of, soy yogurt kind of thing. And we dipped them in there, and the kids loved them. And it was like, you had your chips, and you were dipping it in the ranch, but instead of ranch, it was this great, soy yogurt sriracha thing. And it was, oh man, it was so good. Okay. That is, you succeeded right there. Boom. Okay, small trophies kind of thing. And then the next meal is like, oh, I figured out how to make a oatmeal French toast, which is one of the recipes in my first book. Okay, and it is just as delicious and creamy and sweet as a regular French toast. But hey, you know what? It was actually made of oats instead of bread, and I didn't taste the difference in the level of sugar in the sauce because it was just the sweets, but there was actually no sugar in it. And it was like, oh man, it's like, boom, two go-to meals that any day of the week we can make, and they're easy enough to do. Boom. Then you might go, oh man, I'm getting home late from work. I didn't have time to make dinner. I stopped at a drive-through, and that's the best we could do for this meal. Fine. Figure out why, what took so long. Maybe there's a way to, adjust schedule or the timing or the approach you took to that day, so that, maybe instead of 10 minutes, you actually have half an hour to make dinner, which is not a lot of time. Okay. But you go, okay, for the times when there's only 20, 30 minutes to make dinner, what can we do? Okay. On Sunday, when, it's day off, before getting ready to go to work, turn the oven for an hour or so, and then bake a bunch of sweet potatoes or yams or regular potatoes. And then just pull them out, have them ready. Okay. And on that Wednesday, you're like, oh man, I only have 20 minutes. Oh, but wait, we have yams already cooked in the fridge. Okay. I have this cauliflower, and we're going to make a sort of red onion, cauliflower, apple cider vinegar, a little bit of our favorite spice, and it's going to be the veggies and with the starch. And that happens in 5 minutes because the yams are already cooked. Okay. We don't need more than, 10, 15 minutes to put dinner together. Boom, there you go. There's another small trophy to your case. Okay. So it's small victories, small victory, small victory, small victory, rather than I'm totally going perfect and I'm not, deviating at all. And, one day you have one little piece of milk chocolate and then you're like, oh my God, I'm so terrible. I'm falling off the bandwagon. Who cares what I eat from this point on? So just small victories.
I call it shop, chop, prep.
There you go.
So Friday's my shopping day.
Uh-huh.
Saturday, I prep the vegetables, clean them, wash them, dry, let them air dry, especially like peppers, like sweet peppers. Oh my God, like any moisture and they like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
fall
I know.
apart.
They go ball.
Yeah. So I clean it all on Saturdays and then on Sundays, I batch cook. So just like you said, I've got my roasted vegetables in the oven, check.
Mm-hmm.
I've got my Instant Pot going with some kind of grain, check.
Mm-hmm.
My beans are going because I soaked them overnight, Saturday night usually,
Mm-hmm.
or then we do the quick, boil. And check, okay. And then I have potatoes, some kind of other potatoes. I usually put those in the Instant Pot because I adore, golden, the
Hannah sweet potatoes?
No, sweet potatoes I put in the oven and roast. But I like the Yukon Golds.
Yukon Gold. Okay.
Oh, so good. So, and I just like that. And I have what you were talking about, like in the afternoon, I call it the potato hour.
Mm-hmm.
So, about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you're just like circling around like the vending machine at work, and you're looking for something. So I call it the potato hour. So I usually cut up, I take a potato and I just cut it up into small pieces. And I use at work. I don't use a microwave. It's called a mini hot logic. Are you familiar with this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So I use that to heat it up. So around like 1 o'clock or something, I'll cut my potatoes up and I'll put them in there and I'll drizzle some of the sriracha sauce,
Mm-hmm.
or, I might make another dressing or whatever, and I'll put it on top of the potatoes and I'll put it in to heat it up. And then after school, I still teach. And so I'll be in the library and I'll be eating my potatoes and the kids will be walking by going, is there any more of that? No. Mine. No, because hungry teenagers can devour
I have a 15-year-old. I know about that.
Yeah. So, but they're just all like drooling, like, wipe your mouth off, please.
Yeah.
They're looking at my food going, this is amazing. I mean,
Hmm.
and they're coming by, they've stopped off at the vending machine, and I see this almost every day. Like, they'll go to the vending machine and get a couple of food-like substances, I call it, and they'll eat it, and within a half an hour, 45 minutes, their heads down on the table. They're like
Hmm.
passed out.
The crash.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
crash.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And I see it every day. And the kids who don't get the snacks are still awake and functioning, but the ones who do eat the snacks are their heads down. They're on the
They're
table
crashing. Yeah.
asleep. They're
Yeah.
asleep. So
Yeah.
anyway, well, you got a new project that you're working on. So the
Yeah.
second part. So tell us about that.
So a couple of years ago, I had this great idea of doing some online cooking videos. And then finally, all the pieces came together. I found a great crew, very professional,
Your
very
videos look
knowledgeable what they
beautiful.
do. And yeah, so it wasn't like, well, let's get a couple iPhones and, just kind of wing it. No, this was a professional crew that I was able to find and connect with. And so we shot some videos then in San Diego, and then they did the editing. And in the meantime, I found somebody to build a new website for me. And so, slowly but surely it all came together. bravopb.com is the name of the website. And right now there is the one program. It's called the Simple Foundations to Plant-Based Cooking. And as you've said, you've kind of gone through some of it. I've gotten nothing but great reviews out of it. And then at the end of March, I'm going to shoot a second one. And this one will be like advanced techniques to plant-based cooking. And so I've been very blessed and very happy with all the work that's been put onto it. I found a lot of great people who have helped me do the things that I had no idea how to do, like, film it in a, professional sort of way and make it look very nice and edit it all really good. Because I could stand in front of a cutting board, chop it, show people how to chop and cook and all that. But it was all the other stuff that I didn't know how to do.
Right.
Like if you ask me how to put that, how to make a website, it's like, I have no idea. I know nothing of the sort. But I was, fortunate enough to find a
The
good,
right people.
the right people to make it all come together. And somewhere along the line, I'm actually happy that it took as long as it did, because I mentioned this was a, 2-year idea. In the beginning, what I wanted to do was, put my name out there, build a, a brand, blah, 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 make money, all this stuff. But I thought, the point of anyone who's trying to promote a plant-based diet is to get as many people as possible to adopt the plant-based diet. And so my strategy was then to make this affordable for everybody. Right. So the current course, Simple Foundations of Plant-Based Cooking, and any future courses that I do are always going to be priced at a very, very affordable. And once you have it, it's lifetime access. So you can watch it as many times as you want. You go at your own pace, as quickly as or as slow as you want. I've had people that tell me, "Oh my God, I binge watched the whole thing." Or some people, I'm watching it as I go along, and I'm just sort of absorbing it, and then sort of applying it, and then I watch the next section. And of course, there's plenty of people who go, no, I skip forward to the desserts first, and then I watch all the other stuff. So, whichever way people want to consume it, it's fine.
Right.
And then, like I mentioned, in March, end of March, we're going to shoot the second one. I don't know how long it'll be until it's actually a finished product, but it's happening. It will be. It will happen. It will come together, and there will be more than one course. You mentioned earlier that, the thing that isn't happening, the global warming.
Yeah.
I think that one of the biggest ways in which we can help prevent or, slow down, reverse it, hopefully reverse that climate change, is to go plant-based, is to stop the consumption of animal products. And if we as a species could, go from however much we consume down to a small amount. I don't think we'll ever get rid of it fully because people will not give it up completely. But there is a way that we can just give up so much of it that, climate change would not be a thing. Because it would,
Well, we can't sustain what we're doing.
right. It's completely unsustainable, just completely
Totally.
unsustainable.
Totally.
And there's more of us every single day. So there's just more and more. So we have to figure out how to do less and less. And so, that's kind of my thing. I have a pretty good job. I pay my bills. I go on vacation every year. And so this is my way of trying to make a difference. I can't give it away for free because it actually costs me, a chunk of change to put this whole thing together. A professional, film crew does not come free.
No.
So, but again, it's affordable for everybody, and it will stay affordable for everybody. BravoPB.com. And very soon, we're talking, within a couple of weeks, I'm actually going to have a free database on the website as well. So if you decide, hey, I don't know about this, but let me just check out some of the free recipes, there'll be access to all of that. And then I'm going to start a blog as well, do some sample videos. There's a bunch of videos that I've put on Facebook lately about, some come from the course, some come from what I do on an everyday basis at work or at my house. So I'm just trying to share the knowledge, share the fact that, or present to people who, again, all you eat is lettuce kind of thing. Say, hey, no, look, check this out. Check out this key lime pie that I made. It's totally plant-based. It's SOS free. And just look at it. And you go, oh, wow, that looks really good.
I know.
That's not a lettuce leaf. That's something I want to eat, kind of thing. And so, just like a regular dish, you have to make it look good. So you go, ooh, what's that? And then if you put in the right ingredients and you taste it, you're like, oh, that's really good. I actually want a full-size portion. And then, you go, ooh, this is real, just go kind of thing. But it starts with the visuals. You have to make it look really nice. People, regardless of what they eat, they're like, oh, that looks nice. What is that? I need to know what that is. And that's how you start the process of, come check this out. Eat some of this.
Well, you are a plethora of plant-based knowledge of cooking, and thank you for taking the time to be with me here tonight.
Oh, thank you so much, Gene. I appreciate you inviting me to come on to your show, to your platform. I've enjoyed being here.
Well, good luck on your next project, and I look forward to it because, wow, it's amazing. And I can't say enough already. Your program is amazing.
Yeah, so I don't know if you got into that. I think it's lesson 5, the only cooking class you'll ever need. That's where I explain the whole using of the spices and when to add them in so that you make sure you toast them and you develop flavor.
I haven't gotten there yet, clearly.
Oh, okay. So there you go. You need to check it out. Lesson 5. That's the big one.
I'm not there yet. So
and then there's the one about just the broth itself, and then the knife skills and all that. And then eventually you'll get to the individual recipes as well. Nice. So,
well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Gene. Appreciate it.